So this week's KIP is on paper 2. It's the writing section, so it's section B, and it's worth 40 marks. It comes at the end of the paper. And the question that you need to respond to is a statement where it says there is not enough support for women in sport as there is huge inequality. Write a response for an article where you share your opinions on this. So the first thing I would like to say for a tip is to think about your vocabulary. You need to get into the habit now of reading back through your KIPs and making sure that if you see any simplistic word choices that you are eliminating those and then in place exchanging them for more sophisticated examples. So things like bad, sad, good, nice, all of those we should be looking for more sophisticated, ambitious examples. The second thing that is absolutely crucial is it's about your paragraph and the structure of your whole text, not just the structure within the paragraphs themselves. So consider the first paragraph that you write. Does it show that you understand A, the purpose, that's the P, A, the audience, have you got clear links that you know that it's for a broadsheet newspaper, or you know it's for your head teacher, so it would be formal, or if it was to your peers, that would be informal. And then the last thing is that you understand the format. So if it's a newspaper article, there's a headline, there's subheadings. If it's a speech, the opening paragraph indicates that you are aware that you are speaking to an audience. But then for paragraphs, we've got paragraphs. Are you linking your paragraphs using question and answer? Have you varied the length of your paragraphs? Have you got a one sentence paragraph in there for effect? Have you made sure if there was a possibility of using cyclical structure, so the end paragraph, does that link back to the first paragraph, etc. And then the final tip that I'm going to give you, I'm keeping it nice and short this week, it's about planning. Without planning, you cannot make sure that you've got a cohesive structure of a text. So if you look at my example there, I've got there is not enough support for women in sport as there is huge inequality. So I have already bubble mapped my plan, and I have 4 clear ideas that are going to make up the body of my paragraphs. So I've got subjects within school, I've got pay gap in football, I've got Women's World Cup and moving forward. So I've got an idea. That plan literally took me 1 minute to write. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start reading through the essay, and then I'm going to pause every now and then. I'm just going to explain what was good about that particular paragraph. So my heading is, instead of hearing, come on lads, let us hear, come on all. So that would be my heading. Then my first paragraph states, unfortunately, the fight for gender equality has been battling for some time, with the inequality particularly noticeable in sport. Adversely, many people are intent on highlighting the differences between men and women, which is nonsensical, futile and irrelevant if we want to support women in sport. We know these differences exist. Instead, we should encourage the success of all genders, thus seeking an end to the absurdity of pitting one sex against the other. So I've got my fronted adverbials with unfortunately and adversely, which means to be in a negative impact. I've got wow words like absurdity, futile, which means hopeless, irrelevant. And then I've got a metaphor in the opening sentence. The fight for gender equality has been battling for some time. And then my first paragraph actually begins, so schools. Imagine this, an education system which excluded girls from more academic subjects like maths and science. There would be outrage. So a lovely short simple sentence then, following that long complex sentence. Yet shockingly, this is exactly what we do in PE, where we segregate, which means to split up, the girls away from rugby and football to dance and netball. It is not surprising then to find this archaic, which means old, segregation has had a detrimental effect on the sporting world. So you've got a lovely link between the sporting world and then the next paragraph it says within the sporting world, what it should do. Football, we have all heard of the household names which are synonymous with ludicrously high wages. Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar and Pogba, to name a few, who have earned staggeringly extortionate wages of multi-millions. You've got a long multi-clause sentence there. You've got a colon introducing your list of Messi, Ronaldo, etc. And then the next sentence continues. Contrary to this, the woman's disparaging wage is an embarrassment evidencing the misogyny that exists within football. ... So a lovely example of ellipsis. £30,000 on average per year. A diabolical insult to skilled, talented female footballers. Are we seeing a change in this discriminatory attitude? And then the next sentence, if you look beyond the Women's World Cup 2019 as a subheading, that answers that question. So I've got an example there of question and answer link in my paragraphs. Thankfully, yes, the Women's World Cup held this year in France doubled the live match audience figures for Canada 2015, according to FIFA's report. So you've got a nice example there of an expert opinion with FIFA's report, followed by a rhetorical question to engage the audience. Does this not prove that women's football, when promoted, is fantastic and that fans want to watch it? Fans of football will always want to watch regardless of gender. So how do we move forward so women are supported in sport? So another rhetorical question then at the end, which again links to my next paragraph. So this paragraph is entitled Future Goals. For now, we encourage all women to participate in sport, which will inspire, motivate and empower future generations to follow Nike's mantra of girls who can. We will continue to challenge derogatory attitudes that seek to exclude women from men's sports and aim to move to an inclusive culture with mixed gender teams. Then, and only then, we will be able to chant, come on all, cheering men and women inclusively. So at the very end of the whole article, you've got an example of cyclical structure where the last sentence links back to the actual heading of the overall article. So I'd just like to say thank you for listening this week. I hope then this has given you a little bit of help for the upcoming KIP, where you now know that you will be asked to write an article about gender equality within sport for women. And finally, a few students last week pointed out that they could hear an animal or something in the background of my video. That is correct. This is Blossom, who unfortunately likes to crawl across all of the papers when I'm filming. And this one is my second dog. This is Ruby, and it's normally Ruby's feet that you can hear tip tapping along because she likes to wander when I'm doing this.